Hi everyone, it's Professor King. This is our last WebTeach of the semester, in which I will be discussing essays 4 and 5, so that you have as clear an understanding as possible of what is required going into what is the final week of school, essentially, or of class, I should say. So I will be, this one's going to be short. I'm going to share a share screen in a moment, talking about, if you're stuck, kind of where you can go. I highly recommend, if you haven't already, viewing my last WebTeach from week 14 on kind of, again, getting these ideas ready and stuff like that. Viewing these two in conjunction might help to get you to get the brain, in the space of kind of writing these essays. So all right, I'm going to put it on a share screen, and then I just have some stuff to go over with you, some real fun stuff. So again, it's not going to be very long. I want to give you as much time as possible to work on your writing, so make sure you can do that. But first, let's talk essay 4. Okay, so the format of essay 4 is kind of a slightly different essay, right? It's not like intro, body, conclusion like you're used to. It's kind of starting with a text or a topic and then using that as the springboard for your research that you're going to do in preparation for essay 5. But it's still written in prose format, meaning it's not an annotated bibliography exactly, even though it does a lot of similar things that an annotated bibliography does. In the paragraphs, right, when you look at the instructions for essay 4, you kind of have that embedded T4 style, in that you're summarizing the source and you're analyzing how you're going to use it in your essay, why it might be helpful for your argument or topic, how it relates to other sources, if it's a valid source you think or not, if it passes the CRAP test, all that kind of stuff and more, right? What you can't use, and I'll just kind of highlight this as we go, what you can't use in essay 4 is you can't talk about, you can't use as one of your 4 sources a class text or the textbook. It has to be outside research. And when I say outside research, what I mean is research done outside of the class, right? Those readings you've done in class, I picked those, right? I gathered those and presented them to you. So now your job in gathering the research is to gather your own research, right? Outside of the class texts. But they have to relate to your topic that you want to talk about in terms of essay 5. And so because essay 4 is kind of this prep work for essay 5, right? Really, essentially what you're doing in essay 4 is you're finding different types of sources and you're laying the groundwork for essay 5. You're saying, these are sources I could potentially use in this essay. This is why they are relevant or important. This is how they relate to one another. Here they are. Here's a summary based on the complete reading of the source I did, based on the highlighting and annotating. And here's how I'm thinking of potentially, implementing that in my essay. So because you do that in essay 4, guess what? If there's stuff that works that you can pull out of essay 4 and put, like, literally cut and paste into essay 5, go for it. Again, essay 4 is kind of a rough equivalent to an annotated bibliography. And with annotated bibliographies, that's exactly what a lot of researchers and writers do, right? When they gather the evidence and they say how they're going to use it, then when they get to actually using it, meaning the final research essay, they don't really have to change, well, they have to change a lot, but they can use some of that information that they mentioned in what's going to be essay 4 for you and plan it over. So keep that in mind. So we've already talked in for the spring 2020 class and for future classes, we will have already talked significantly about essay 4. So I'm not going to belabor any points. If you've been attending the Zoom meetings or being part of the discussion boards, looking at the PowerPoints, reading the instructions, right? Like emailing me, being in contact with me if we're doing pronto for whatever semester you're in. You know, I'm not going to belabor those points. What I want to say though is, you know, at this point, a lot of people get very deer in the headlights, and that has more to do with psychology and emotions than it actually has to do with ability to write. So maybe because it's, you know, the last week and a half of the semester, you're kind of like frozen and you're going, I don't know what I'm going to research. I don't know what I'm going to write about. I don't know what I have to say. And a lot of that comes from anxiety, right? And so what I would say is you've already said a lot. You already have a lot of information that you've been gathering up to this point, as long as you've been participating in the course, that can be useful, right? So here's what I would say to do, right? Think about it this way. Remember when I talked about how writing is an incremental process, right? I've mentioned that several times throughout this course. Writing's an incremental process. There is no greater indicator of that than where we are right now. And what I mean by that is, you know, these topics, right? And these are already in the essay for prompt. Again, if you have a different topic you want to talk about that's related to the course, you know, as long as it's related to the course, it's fair game. But think about like these topics, right? All these topics and so many more we've talked about within the you know, the 16 weeks of this course. These are just kind of the main ones, right? We've talked about even more than these. But what I would say to do is this. Look back at what you've done in terms of the talking to the text, right? In terms of the actual reading, the highlights and the annotations that you did for the reading, the post-it notes, the underlines, the notes in the margins, the notes in your notebooks, right? All that sort of stuff. Look back over your, if this is an online class, look back over your discussion board posts, yours and those that have similar topics to you from your peers, right? That you may have responded to. Look back over any notes you have pertaining to the topic that you've chosen. And now that we're doing essay 4 and we're gathering the research, look at the outside research you have. Think of that. Think of all the information you already have at your fingertips that relates to this topic, right? You have the readings, the class text, right? That again, won't count as one of your outside sources, but it's a good jumping off point. It's a good springboard. You have the class text that you read and highlighted. You have your notes that you took either in class or online. You have your talking to the text where you summarized and analyzed that text and that topic. You have your discussion board posts where you talked about these things and you shared some of these ideas and you looked at other people who were talking about similar things and kind of let those marinate, right? And you have your outside research that you're summarizing and analyzing. That's a lot. That's a great place to start from in terms of, you know, and I would even wager that all of that together, if you kind of pulled it all together and cut and pasted and put it on one Word or Google Doc, I would bet dollars to donuts that that's more than 6 to 8 double space pages. I'm just going to say, not saying you can use all of it, right? You've got to do the work of the essay, come up with a topic, come up with an argument, answer one of the prompts for essay 5, right? Clearly and thoroughly, do all those things, but at least you have, right? You've done the preliminary work. You may not realize that you've been doing it, but that's what you've been working toward up to this point, right? So we're not reinventing the wheel. We're not doing a whole new topic, right? This is stuff that at some point in this semester, you've started gathering, right? You've started thinking about, and now is the time to really put it into a clean, crisp, clear, well-articulated, well thought out, well-ordered, analytical argument, right? That uses all of these concepts that we've been looking at all semester, and employs those into a 6 to 8 page essay. So I hope that allays some fears in terms of, you know, feeling like you're you're starting at square one. You're not starting at square one. You do have a lot of work to do, right? That's kind of the nature of a final assignment for any class. But at least you have the beginnings of it there. As long as you've been doing the work throughout the semester, right? So think of it in those terms, right? Think of what you already have. And then what I would say is, you know, the topic that you choose, or maybe kind of play around with a couple brainstorms. Start with the topic, brainstorm everything you remember, brainstorm questions you have about the topic, brainstorm kind of what you know and what you don't, brainstorm how you feel in terms of the issue as we looked at it in class, where you stand. You know, do a few brainstorms, and whatever kind of elicits the most to talk about, go from there. Then once you have that, right, I'm gonna skip over to our class here, right? Once you have that, review the prompts, right, for essays 4 and 5. Again, whatever discussion board you wrote about, review your discussion board post as well, and T4 post, as well as those of your peers, to kind of help you to generate some ideas. Then the last thing I would say is remember that visual map essay comprehension template that I've shown you before. You know, this guy that looks like a weird, wacky little series of boxes. Start plugging in. Say you've done some outside research, right? Then when you scroll down, you can put that in the evidence box, and then think about what you have to say and surround, you know, that what you have to say about that evidence. That'll be your claim. And then when you think about why what you're saying is important, that'll be, as it relates to your thesis, that'll be your analysis, right? Or let's say you already have a bunch of claims, like you already have a really strong feeling about your topic. You can start with a claim, right? And then do some of that research for essay 4, plug that in here. Then look at them together and say, so what? Why am I telling my reader this? You know, what's at stake in terms of my argument? Plug that there. And then once you've filled out, you know, you may have more than 4 or 5 body paragraphs. I just tried to fit this all in one handout, right? Once you have that filled out, then you have a blueprint. And this is a Word doc, so you could even type into this. You don't have to print it out and write it by hand. So, you know, again, work smarter, not harder. Don't forget the last 15 weeks that we've been working on stuff. Use these skills, right? Use these skills. If you look at body paragraph 3, and this, again, you don't have to do this in your exact body paragraph 3. I just put it there to remind people, right? Think about counter arguments. The prompts ask for them, so you have to anticipate them, right? And again, a counter argument is not a full 180 from where you are. It can be anywhere on that radar screen, right? It just might be something that you haven't considered before, or it might be a perspective that just comes in from a slightly different angle than you. Maybe they agree with you on some points, but disagree on others, right? Maybe they're looking at it from a whole nother perspective. So keep those things in mind. Fill out that visual, you know, pick the topic, review what you've already done, do a brainstorm or 2 or 3 or 4, start plugging into the visual map here, have that blueprint, and then type the dang essay, right? And then again, whatever you have left over from essay 4 that you can possibly fit into here, as long as it fits, as long as you do that last revision, and I'm going to go back to share screen, or not share screen. As long as you have that time to revise, edit, proofread, transition, flow, you know, clean it up, make sure it makes sense, make sure you're answering the prompt thoroughly, you're going to be just fine. You're going to be just fine. So that's my final discussion for you all. I do want to end this last WebTeach by just saying thank you for all your hard work this semester, for sticking through it, for working hard given these very strange historical circumstances that we're living through right now. And I wish you nothing but the best of luck going into the last week of this semester and in all of your future semesters and endeavors. So thank you for listening and watching, and I'll see you in cyberspace. Bye-bye.